Okay, we are back. We are here. And by we, I mean me. You guys are getting a solo episode today. Hopefully that's exciting for you. I first of all need to say sorry this is late. I got in last night from Maryland. I went to Maryland this weekend, which I'll be talking about on the episode today. And you know, long story short, I couldn't get my shit together. So I didn't record the app before I left. And then I was like, it'll be no problem. I can record an episode while I'm hanging out with my parents and my soon to be in laws. But I couldn't. I couldn't because I'm a people pleaser and I'm bad at laying down boundaries and taking time for myself. So I apologize, you guys. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, I took a shower. All right. I do look like a drowned rat. And I put on moisturizer out of the shower, as you do. But when you do that in the summertime, you sweat it all out immediately. So if you see a layer of upper lip sweat forming throughout the episode, it's driving me as crazy as it's driving you. Okay? And, you know, I don't sweat from my forehead because Botox. So, you guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate. Thank you all for listening to this podcast, subscribing to this podcast, rating it, reviewing it on iTunes. It means the fucking world to me. It really makes my day, and it really makes a difference with the podcast. So if you haven't yet and you're enjoying the podcast, please review it on iTunes. I would appreciate it. Anyhow, I got a lot to talk about. And first of all, there's this fucking challenge. Okay, this like Instagram challenge going around. Ladies, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What the fuck is this for? I got a couple of DMs from some of you, and I appreciated the DMs. They were very nice. They were like, you know, I'm sending this to you because you're a woman that I look up to or that I admire, or that I think is badass. And, you know, I appreciate that. And for those of you who sent it to me, I know that the intention was good. And of course I support you. But I don't understand the point of the challenge. You're supposed to post a selfie in black and white, you know, which is like, that's like, I mean, all these pictures look like the photo you would post as the credits are rolling on like a movie where everybody dies of AIDS. I don't understand what the point of it is. And I also don't understand why I have to DM 50 fucking women to do it separately. That was another part of I was like, how did this get so big? Because you got to DM 50 women? 50? I don't even know 50 women that I genuinely look up to, you know, in like a real everyday kind of way where I'm like, what would so-and-so do? And that's not to say that they're not out there. That's to say that I don't have that many fucking friends. So, and I can't maintain that many friendships, especially if I'm spending my whole day doing Instagram challenges that could be a data entry job. So I didn't do the challenge, and I'm sorry. It's not because I didn't appreciate the message, but it's because I don't have time to do this kind of shit. All right. And it makes me sad because it makes me feel like, you know, when your grandparents email you a chain email, that's what it feels like when Instagram starts getting into like chain email challenges. I'm like, okay, well, we're all aging. We're all dying. Nobody's got the time for it. Okay. If you're doing the Instagram challenge, you are identifying yourself as over 40 and you need to chill. I think that's all I have to say about the Instagram challenge. I was proud of my mom. My mom didn't do it. Good for you, Nanny B. Um, she was like, "What? Why is this? What? I gotta post a pretty picture of myself." My mom hates whenever whenever there's like a surface level performative display of feminism. My mom loses it. She doesn't like it. She's not into it. She's a real salt of the earth lady. Okay, she seems like she was raised on a boat, if that makes sense. So I want to talk about this weekend. And in order to talk about this weekend, I kind of have to give you guys a little bit of background. There's a little bit of a story to, provide some context. This weekend, I took Andy to meet my dad. And I want to talk about my dad on this episode because here's the thing. I took him to meet my dad. My dad and I hadn't spoken in a year. Okay. It's not the first time we've gone on long, icy periods of not speaking to one another. And if you have a dad where your relationship is like this, I think you'll find this episode particularly interesting. So we hadn't spoken in a year. And the last time we spoke, he had said some pretty hurtful shit. Okay. And if I'm really being honest, is like bordering on the verbal abuse side of things. And I was hurt by it. But I also, at the time, wasn't taking it personally. And I didn't really feel any need to defend myself against it because I knew it was coming from like a toxic place. And I feel like I need to say that that's kind of a huge deal for me. To hear someone say awful shit about me and know it's not true without feeling the need to prove that that's like a sign of personal growth for me. It's like, okay, I went to therapy for this shit. I know that when somebody is attacking me in one way or another, I don't have to take responsibility for the things that they're saying. I don't have to take on what they're saying and try to convince myself that they're not true if I know, in fact, that they are not true. So, and I'm not going to go into like what he said because it doesn't really matter. But when it was all over, I did say to myself, okay, a person who respects themselves doesn't let somebody talk to them like this. And so I made the decision to stop speaking to him until he apologized. And it wasn't like a reaction. It wasn't like, all right, well, fuck you. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. It was like a measured decision that I made from a pretty calm place. All right. Like I was hurt, but I wasn't like worked up about it. And I wasn't like, oh, I hate him. It was more like, I hope that he will apologize to me, but I'm not going to demand one. So I'm sitting there going, all right, he'll apologize at some point. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, he'll apologize. This is fine. And, a year goes by and I don't get an apology. And I don't get, he doesn't reach out on a holiday. He doesn't reach out. No holidays, nothing. Just, I don't hear a fucking word. And I was like, wow, okay. But, I guess this is it for me and my dad. That was what I thought. And then March rolls around and it's my birthday and I get an email. I get an email from my dad wishing me a happy birthday. And I said to myself, because at this point I was pretty pissed that it had taken this long. But I remembered the deal that I made with myself in the beginning, which was if he reaches out and apologizes, I will talk to him again. Okay, so it's my birthday. He reaches out. He wishes me a happy birthday. He does not apologize in this email. But I sort of, you know, I guess like when I got the email, I was like, okay, I'm not going to, it wasn't an apology, but it was a dad apology. Okay. And by dad apology, I mean like this never happened and we're going to move on. All right. And that was obnoxious, but I kind of decided it was probably the decent thing to do to let him know that I was getting married because I got engaged on my birthday. And I just thought, okay, I'll let him know. And that'll open up the lines of communication again. And maybe then he'll feel like he can apologize. And, so I let him know I was getting engaged. He wrote an email to me and Andy, introducing himself and saying he was happy for us. And he'd never even met Andy. He had no idea who Andy was. So we didn't speak about after that for about like another 2 months. And then around Father's Day, I decided I'd give him a call just to wish him a happy Father's Day. And I was really torn. I was really torn about telling him that I'd gotten engaged and telling him that wishing him happy Father's Day when he hadn't really apologized for any of the shit that he'd said. And I thought, is this like, am I betraying myself by not doing what I said I would do? And, but then I thought if I was a parent, I would be pretty fucking hurt if my daughter didn't let me know that they were getting married. Even if I knew I'd been a shitty parent at times. All right. And I thought, let me just have some compassion for the fact that this guy's pride won't allow him to apologize. He may not actually have the tools that I have for getting over himself. All right. So I say all this because it's context for, how the weekend went with Andy meeting my dad. But I feel like it's also context for the way there are some people that are listening to this going, okay, well, you copped out. You fucking, you said you were going to do this and then you didn't do it. And the truth is that life is, you got to listen to your own fucking life. And I know that sounds like Oprah. And I'm sorry, genuinely. But it's like there's feedback that you get, from people. And there's only so much that people are willing or capable of doing. And people are really only capable of what they're willing to do, because that's how powerful our pride and our ego is. So you got to be able to fucking work with people. Anyway, so I hadn't really gotten an apology or anything, but when I called him on Father's Day, he invited Andy out to meet him and my stepmom. So I said, okay. And that felt like, fuck, because I sort of, when I spoke to him, I don't know. I felt like, fuck, I just wanted to wish him a happy Father's Day and be done with it. Right. Because it had been another 2 months since we'd spoken and I still hadn't gotten a fucking apology. And I was like, fuck this. But I said I would let him meet Andy. So that was the context under which I was introducing my fiance to my dad. Um, God, this is a lot of information to be giving a fucking fuck ton of strangers, but it's it's what happened. And so we're driving there, and it felt like bringing a guy home to your house, like for the first time, a day after a hurricane. All right, it's like there's giant holes in the floor they could fall through, but if you warn them about the holes, you could, if you're busy looking out for them, you could fall in one of the holes yourself. So that's what it feels like navigating the place at my dad's. And there's just so much shit I couldn't fucking talk about. And that is not how I operate. I mean, I'm like a garden hose. I just like fucking spew shit. So it was a challenge for me to just kind of be like, I'm going because it's the decent thing to fucking do. It doesn't necessarily have to feel good. Okay. Doing the right thing doesn't always have to feel fucking good. It can just be you doing the right thing, and you can just fucking suck it up and deal with the difficult people in your life with as much compassion as you can muster without betraying yourself. So, so the weekend goes pretty good. It wasn't a bad weekend. I mean, my dad lives in like the most gorgeous fucking private island. Like, it's like insanely nice. And it's like, it's crazy when I go back there to think about like the world that I grew up in. I just go, holy fuck, I was really in some Illuminati shit here. Like I could have been I could have been a fucking lobbyist. You know what I mean? It's crazy when I look around at like my dad's world, what I missed out on. And that's not to say I don't fucking love my life. I do. It's great to be a comic, not now, but it's, I mean, I wouldn't change what I do to do what he does or what he did. He's retired now, but I do think about like how far I strayed from that path to be on the one that I'm on now. It's crazy. And how different I ended up from my father, even though we are genuinely the same fucking person. Like the only difference between him and me is that I'm a woman and I go to therapy. And also I make no fucking money, comparatively speaking. So I don't know. It was just this weird, when you go home to see family and you got all this shit on your mind, and it's like you can't talk about any of it while you're there. So you just go back to your world with like this weird kind of backlog of shit to think about. Because I was thinking about my childhood. I was thinking about my current situation. I was thinking about what things would have been like if, when my parents got divorced, I had like taken my father's side, like how different of a person I would have ended up being. Or just if I had taken neither parent's side, which would have been ideal, but I didn't have the wisdom to do that. I completely like took the side of my mother, and that fucks with your psychology as a kid, because you're like, automatically you feel like you have to protect one of your parents instead of just being a kid. And I wasn't like a kid. I was like 17. But my brain wasn't fully formed. So before I was taking care of or trying to take care of my parents' feelings. So if you are a parent and you're listening to this, I think that's something that a lot of parents do is they make their children responsible for them in one way or another. It's like they depend on their children to feel better. And it's not your kid's job to make you feel better. It's your job to make you feel better. It's not your kid's job. It's not your fucking partner's job. It's your job. And so you got to figure out what it is that makes you feel better for yourself, because there is nothing that someone else can give to you that you couldn't give to yourself in a more efficient and effective way. So that's my soapbox. That was actually like a good advice section, I guess, of the podcast. But anyway, so the weekend, I'll get back to the fucking story. The weekend goes good. We were, Andy went golfing with my dad. I went swimming with my sister. I kind of kept my distance and like let him get to know my fiance while trying to kind of like just stay in my wing of the home. But then we went to go get dinner together. Sorry, I burped in the mic. Again, we all went to go get dinner together, and I was late going to dinner. My dad was late, and we're like getting in the country club golf carts to like go to their country club restaurant, which is an insane sentence. And my dad like takes out this thing and he goes, "Hey, I got something for you." And I was like, "Okay, what, that was nice of you." He goes, "It's an engagement gift." And he goes, "I didn't get Andy anything." And I was like, "Andy doesn't deserve anything." And he thought that was hilarious because my dad, he loves mean humor. He finds it hysterical. And he's actually, when it comes to, in my house, he was kind of the whole reason I'm funny is because of my dad, because he was such an asshole. Anyway, he opens up this bag and he hands me this box, and I was like, "Here it comes," I was like, here's the buyout. And he got me this like really nice bracelet. It was like a diamond bracelet. And I opened it up and I was like, "Wow, this is really, thank you so much. This is so generous of you." But it still like was not an apology. And that's fine. I'll take a diamond bracelet instead of an apology. I will be bought. That's fine. You can buy my silence. I am, after all, a child of a political figure. So, or a grandchild. And so I was like, "All right, cool. This is it. I'm not going to get the apology. Fine. Whatever." But then he did. He was like, I opened it up. I was like, "Thank you so much. This is beautiful. I appreciate it. I hope thanks for having us, whatever." And so I had sort of been like, but then he actually started fucking my dad, who's like the toughest dude I know. Starts like tearing up, and he was like, I'm so sorry for everything I said the last time we spoke, a year ago. I knew, he goes, I thought it would be empowering what he said. And he was trying to make a joke, but he was like, I thought it'd be empowering to like, call you a bitch and whatever. I was like, okay. But then he said, he goes, I never meant to cause such a huge rift. And I said, well, Dad, I don't. I said, it's okay. I've said some mean shit that I can't take back and that I never will take back if it was a joke. So, I was like, but that's the difference, like I tell jokes, and if it's a miss, it's not an excuse to be like, oh, it was a joke. I really was trying to tell a joke. And that was really what caused this whole thing, is like me trying a joke that never really landed with my family, that my family found not funny. And of course I took the joke down. Like I was like, but it was after I took it down that my dad had launched into this whole verbal barrage of shit. And so he apologized, and I guess like the whole reason I'm even telling this story is a lot of times, in the past, I would have been like, it's not the apology that I wanted. It wasn't the way that I wanted it to sound. It didn't come in the amount of time that I wanted it to come in. But there's something really powerful about like accepting people for who they are. There's something really loving about that. And it turns out you can do that without betraying yourself. Like it takes a lot more patience, and it takes a lot more work in terms of detaching yourself from I don't know, from their bullshit. But it's possible to do it, And dads especially they're such fucking tragic figures in a way. Like dads are they work so fucking hard, and they don't get any fucking respect. Like they really don't. Like, I mean, part of that is because they're always teaching you useless shit. Like I remember growing up, I was 5 when my dad told me, if you want to know if someone's guilty, just let them talk. And I was 5. I was a 5-year-old girl. I wasn't a hitman in the Gotti family. So I don't know why he thought I needed to know that. He was a lawyer. I'm sure he thought he was passing down some valuable insight into practicing law. But I don't know why I would need to know that as a 5-year-old girl. I probably wasn't wiping my ass properly at the time. So, but he would teach me shit like that. Like how long a human being can go without drinking water. It's like, well, I don't live in the woods, so I don't need to know that. How a cactus feeds itself. That's something that he wanted me to know. He used to try to teach me how to read a map. I was like, we have GPS. I don't need a map. There's no reason I would need a map unless I wanted to challenge myself to a survival competition. And I have no interest in that. Thank you. I remember him teaching me that Baker's chocolate wasn't good. And he was like, this isn't good chocolate. It doesn't taste good. And I was a kid, so I was like, well, let me taste it. And he was like, well, if you try to taste this after what I just told you, I'll make you eat the whole goddamn block. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's bad unless I taste it. So I tried it. And then true to his word, I was forced to eat a whole block of Baker's chocolate that night, and I puked. Okay? So that is how my dad taught lessons. There were he would chase us around the house with belts. He was like a Southern dad. And by Southern, I mean abusive in some ways. But I don't see him as a bad guy. And that's not in any kind of it's not Stockholm syndrome. There've been times in my life where I've been like, my dad is a horrible man. And I've worked through it, and I look back and I go, he was just a guy that had a kid and did the best he could. That's what parents are. They're fucking idiots that got pregnant. And I don't know. A lot of people go around their whole fucking life being so angry at their parents. And they build their whole thing off of that. They build their whole fucking perspective about life on the back of how angry they are at their parents. And I don't want to fucking do that. I want my adulthood to be mine. I don't want it to be shaped by my parents the way that my childhood was. Okay? I don't want my beliefs shaped by my parents the way that they were in childhood. So I look at it and I go, am I glad that he met my fiance? Yeah, I am. I'm glad for him that he was able to meet my fiance. And I'm glad for myself that I gave him the chance to do that. Because I don't think there's no fucking test that you have to take to be a parent. There's only the act of doing it. And nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. And a lot of times, it's people go around so pissed at their parents in their adulthood. And it's what the fuck are you still getting out of this? Why do you still want to be so angry about this? Why are you it's grow the fuck up. Because they're well, he did this to me and he did that to me. And it's okay, well, you're an adult now. So what do you want to do about it? Do you want to go back? Do you want a new childhood? Because you don't get one. So you lost. And now you're an adult and you can fucking grow up and have your own fucking life and not be, one of these 40-year-old people bitching about their parents. You still live with them or something. Anyway, I remember, it's so funny too now because my dad acting like that was really him sliding back into this old fucking behavior. The fight that we had was so crazy because I was I haven't seen you act like this since I was a kid. And being an adult, I got to react to it as an adult. And the fact that he came around, and it took him a long fucking time, but he came around and he said, sorry. And he started to cry. And that might as well be full blown monsoon tears, because to see my dad tear up is a huge deal. I mean, he was the Punisher in my fucking house. He was El Cuco. He was just this ominous presence that just I never really fucking saw him unless my mother summoned him. Unless things had gotten out of control and my mom needed to summon the Punisher, and he would come in and he would, ruin my night. But then I moved out of the house and like his testosterone levels fucking plummeted. And all of a sudden he got super into orchids and cats, which makes sense because those are two living things that reject all efforts to nurture them. Um, you know, so it made sense that he was most comfortable showing his affection to those. But I and it used to piss me off. I used to like introduce people to my dad. Like I introduced Andy to my dad, and my Andy was like, "He seems like a nice guy," and I was like, "Yeah, now he does." But the truth is, he is a nice guy now, and I think if your dad is shitty, you just wait. Just wait until he gets old enough to kind of like lose his fight. They get tired. They do. Because dads can't win. They really can't. They because all they really want at the end of the day is respect. And they never get it. They're like Rodney Dangerfield. Except Rodney Dangerfield actually did people respected him. So I guess that is all I really wanted to talk about today. I know it's a short episode, but I don't know. I just felt like telling you guys about that because that's what's on my mind. I know it's not super funny either, but I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't fucking know. I don't know what's funny anymore. I haven't been on stage in four and a half fucking months. Things in New York are still like halfway opened up. I know that around the country things are shutting down. I don't know how the fuck we're going to get through this year. I mean, I'm really at the point now where I'm thinking about, why don't I just have a kid just to have something to do? Which is not a reason to have a kid. Okay. But I'm bored. I want to be back on the road, you guys. I want to be doing comedy again for all of you. I want to be doing stand-up. It feels like everything that I was or that I am is like gone. I know it's so fucking like, oh, poor me. There's bigger fucking problems, but there's also this massive like identity crisis that everyone who enjoyed their work is going through. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Well, like this was everything to me, doing stand up, telling jokes, writing jokes. Shit was everything. And of course I'm still working on developing, writing a TV show, trying to fucking get other shit off the ground. But it's like stand up it's like a religion or something. It feels like I almost wanted to break into song, break into losing my religion, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to break into song. Okay. I've lost my mind enough on this podcast, and you guys don't need to see me breaking into song for you alone in my living room. Let's see if we got some bad advice questions. Shall we do that, you guys? Let's fucking see. I want Gmail. Sorry, you guys. I am my own producer. If I had a producer here who I paid, I would be yelling at them for not having this shit together. But this isn't my fault because I don't have a producer. So, okay. All right, Kate. All right, I got a question from Kate. And this is a very short one. Thank you, Kate. It's like you knew the episode was late and that I needed to get it out. Hi, Rosebud. How should I decide whether or not to get bangs? Kate, this is how you should decide, okay? If your face, if when you put your bangs, if when you put your hair over your forehead, you decide, I never want anyone to see me, like you can get bangs, just get them, right? And then when you get them, if you look in the mirror and you say, I never want anyone to see me any other way, like I don't want someone to even, I don't want the wind to accidentally move my hair from my forehead. No one can see my face without this curtain over it ever again. That is how you decide whether or not to keep bangs. Anybody can get them, okay? Also, if you have a large forehead, that's always a good move. Bangs are always a good move if your forehead is the size of mine, frankly. Okay, my forehead looks like, you know that space above your couch when there's no paintings on it? Like there's nothing hung above the couch. It's just a blank wall. You know how big that fucking wall looks when there's nothing hanging on it? That is my forehead. And that is how you fucking decide. I mean, you should get them. You should just get them because we're in a pandemic and we're all making bad decisions. So go for it. Fuck, I meant to give you bad advice, but bangs are something that I just take really seriously and they're very close to my heart. And I do need to get mine trimmed because right now they're side swept and I don't even like that. I don't even like them side swept. I also don't like the way that side swept sounds. It almost like sounds more romantic than it is. You guys, this has been a solo episode of Devil's Advocate podcast. I hope that you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed doing it. I missed this, honestly. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys next week. Follow me on Instagram at Rosebud Baker. You can write to me. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Write to me. devilsadvocatepod.atc@gmail.com. Follow the podcast on Instagram, devilsadvocatepod.atc. And yeah, you guys have a great week. I love you. Thanks for listening. Bye.